3 miles. That's the distance between downtown Atlanta and Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Sounds harmless, right? Tiny little distance, easy walk, no problem. Wrong. In Georgia heat, those 3 miles become a survival challenge. The kind where your phone overheats, your shirt gives up on life, and your Uber price climbs to $80 while you sit completely motionless in traffic. But Atlanta has a cheat code, and somehow it only costs $2.50. It's barely 9 in the morning and the air already feels thick enough to drink. Not breathe. Drink. Atlanta in June doesn't slowly introduce itself. It grabs you by the shoulders and says, "Welcome to the South. Hope you packed extra shirts. Somewhere 3 miles north sits Mercedes-Benz Stadium." Now, 3 miles sounds walkable. Technically, it is. But that's exactly the kind of confidence that leaves tourists stranded beside a highway wearing dress shoes and regretting every decision that led them there. The stadium sits directly in downtown Atlanta, right in the middle of everything, not hidden outside the city surrounded by endless parking lots like a lot of American stadiums. This one is woven straight into downtown life. You've got Centennial Olympic Park nearby, State Farm Arena next door, hotels everywhere, office towers staring down at 75,000 football fans wearing jerseys that probably cost way too much, and that changes the entire matchday experience. Some World Cup stadiums feel like logistical boss battles. You spend half the day figuring out parking, traffic, shuttle buses, or trying to remember where your friend left the rental car. Atlanta, surprisingly, gives you an easier answer. And no, this is not an ad for public transportation. It just actually works. Here's the mistake almost every visitor makes. They land at the airport, open Uber, see 18 minutes to stadium, and think the problem is solved. At 9:30 in the morning, maybe. But World Cup traffic does not behave like normal traffic. It behaves like a giant psychological experiment designed to test human patience. By noon, downtown Atlanta starts tightening up. Police barricades appear. Streets close. Drivers start inventing secret shortcuts that somehow make traffic even worse. Every Uber driver suddenly believes they alone possess forbidden Atlanta knowledge. None of them do. They are all driving into the exact same traffic jam together. The smart move is MARTA. Locals argue constantly about whether MARTA is amazing or just functional. But during the World Cup, it becomes the easiest transportation option in the city. From the airport, take the red or gold line northbound. Get off at Vine City Station. From there, the stadium is only a short walk away. About 5 minutes normally. Maybe 9 minutes if someone ahead of you suddenly stops in the middle of the sidewalk to film TikToks for 17 different angles. And the fare? $2.50? That number matters because everything else around the World Cup suddenly starts costing the same as a minor financial decision. 14 minutes from airport to stadium area. No parking stress, no surge pricing, no sitting silently in the back of an Uber while the ETA somehow gets longer every 30 seconds. You know that moment when the driver sighs quietly and both of you pretend not to notice? Yeah, MARTA saves you from that too. Meanwhile, Uber prices slowly evolve into acts of emotional damage. 10:30 in the morning, $28. Noon, $46. 1 p.m., numbers that feel personally disrespectful. And somehow you're paying more money to move slower. That's the magic of downtown Atlanta traffic. If you take MARTA, the atmosphere changes immediately when you leave Vine City Station. Street vendors line the sidewalks. Music leaks out of portable speakers. Argentina jerseys everywhere, Brazil shirts, Mexico flags, somebody screaming in Portuguese, somebody else grilling food that smells incredible, and somehow there is always one guy wearing a full suit in Georgia humidity. Nobody knows why. Maybe he lost a bet, maybe he's built differently. Either way, respect. Then the stadium appears. Mercedes-Benz Stadium doesn't really look like a normal stadium. It looks more like a giant futuristic camera lens dropped into downtown Atlanta by accident. The roof is made of 8 huge triangular panels that open and close like mechanical flower petals. Yes, that sounds dramatic, because it is dramatic. And honestly, whoever designed this building was having an unbelievably good day. When the roof opens, sunlight pours into the stadium and completely changes the atmosphere. And in Atlanta, that roof matters. June weather here switches personalities without warning. 1 minute, it's sunshine. 5 minutes later, the sky looks like it's preparing for the apocalypse. Locals casually say things like, "Just wait a minute," while lightning attacks the horizon. At Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the roof closes fast enough that the match barely notices. Inside, the stadium feels steeper than expected. The seating bowl rises sharply, which makes even upper-level seats feel surprisingly close to the pitch. Cheap seats still feel connected to the match instead of feeling like you accidentally bought tickets in another zip code. Sightlines are clean everywhere. No blocked corners, no giant support poles, no moments where you spend 90 minutes staring at a steel beam wondering why you flew across the planet for this experience. Then there's the screen. Calling it a scoreboard feels disrespectful. It's basically a digital planet hanging above the stadium. The halo board wraps around the roof opening in a complete circle, surrounding the crowd with massive ultra-high-definition replays from every direction. A goal happens. The crowd explodes. The replay hits the screen instantly. You look at the field, then the board, then the crowd, then back at the field because somehow the game already restarted while your brain was still processing what happened. And the sound inside this building is ridiculous. When 75,000 people react at the same time, the stadium doesn't just get loud, it vibrates. Your chest feels it before your ears do. And somehow, the concourses still function properly. That sounds boring until you visit enough stadiums to realize how rare it actually is. Wide walkways matter. Fast concession lines matter. Clean bathrooms matter a lot more than people admit during a 4-hour sporting event involving thousands of beers. Then you see the food prices. And for a second, you genuinely think there's been a mistake. $5 beer? $2 hot dogs? $3 nachos. In modern stadium economics, that feels almost illegal. Most sports venues treat hunger like a financial emergency. Here, prices stay surprisingly reasonable because owner Arthur Blank pushed for fan-friendly concessions years ago. And honestly, it works. People buy more food because they don't feel financially attacked every time they approach a concession stand. Nobody's calculating whether another drink means skipping electricity payments next month. People just relax. Imagine that. After the match, the transportation difference becomes even more obvious. Drivers crawl toward parking garages in a giant sea of brake lights. Thousands of cars all trying to escape downtown Atlanta at exactly the same time creates a special kind of suffering. The kind where you start reconsidering major life decisions while moving 4 feet every 10 minutes. Meanwhile, MARTA passengers are already halfway back to their hotels feeling unbelievably smug. And honestly, they earned it. That's the hidden strength of Atlanta as a World Cup city. Not perfection. Definitely not perfection. This is still a massive American city in June. Chaos is part of the experience, but the city understands large events. Atlanta hosted the 1996 Summer Olympics, and it has spent decades learning how to move enormous crowds through downtown without complete collapse. Then kickoff arrives. The teams emerge. National anthems begin. The roof is open. Evening sunlight pours into the stadium, and the crowd noise keeps building higher and higher. You look around and realize 75,000 people somehow made it into the building without the city imploding. Honestly, that alone deserves applause. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is not the biggest stadium in this tournament, not the loudest, not the most historic, but it might be the smoothest overall World Cup experience in the United States. The stadium helps you instead of fighting you. And after enough delayed ride shares, impossible parking situations, and $20 bottled water, that starts feeling genuinely luxurious. But Atlanta is only one stop on this tournament map. Next comes Texas. And Texas does not believe in doing anything small. The next stadium sits in Arlington, surrounded by highways wide enough to look fake. The building is enormous. The screens are absurd. The parking lots stretch toward the horizon like a philosophical concept. Public transportation will not save you there. Walking will not save you either. Atlanta gently guides you through the experience. Dallas throws you into chaos,